You think you're free. You wake up, make decisions, choose your path. But what if I told you that 3 invisible traps are silently draining your power every single day? What if the very things you believe make you strong are actually making you weak? Most men never see these traps. They're too subtle, too embedded in what we call normal behavior. You might be caught in all 3 right now, and you don't even know it. The first trap is the validation loop. You post, you share, you speak, always measuring the response. Did they like it? Did they agree? Did they nod their approval? This isn't connection, this is addiction. You've handed over your internal compass to a crowd of strangers. Every time you check for reactions, you lose a piece of yourself. Every time you adjust your words to get a better response, you drift further from your core. The man who needs constant feedback becomes a puppet. He thinks he's engaging with the world, but really, the world is programming him. The second trap is emotional reactivity disguised as strength. You see injustice, you must speak. You witness foolishness, you must correct. You encounter disagreement, you must argue. This isn't leadership. This is being led by every external stimulus that crosses your path. The reactive man believes he's passionate, engaged, alive, but he's actually scattered. His energy bleeds out through 1,000 small battles that don't matter. He mistakes noise for impact, activity for accomplishment. He's always fighting, never building. The third trap is total availability. Your phone buzzes, you answer. Someone needs something, you provide. A crisis emerges, you rush in. You think this makes you valuable, reliable, strong, but it makes you weak. The man who's always available becomes invisible. People stop appreciating what they can always access. These 3 traps feed on each other. The need for validation makes you reactive. Reactivity makes you available to every distraction. Availability weakens your presence. Weak presence demands more validation. The cycle continues. You might recognize yourself in this. Most men do. The question isn't whether you're caught, it's whether you're ready to break free. Because once you see these traps, you can't unsee them. Once you understand how they work, you gain the power to choose differently. The path out isn't complicated, but it requires something most men have forgotten how to do. It requires stillness. Not the stillness of inaction, but the stillness of inner strength. The stillness that comes from knowing who you are without needing the world to confirm it. Are you ready to discover what happens when you stop feeding these traps? When you reclaim the power you've been unconsciously giving away? Let's break this down. The validation trap is a vampire. It feeds on your authentic self and leaves you with a hollow echo of who you could be. But here's what makes it dangerous. It feels good while it's draining you. Think about your last social media post, your last comment in a meeting, your last text message. How much of it was pure expression and how much was calculated for response? Be honest, most men can't tell the difference anymore. The validation vampire works through microdoses. A like here, a nod there, a good point in the group chat. Each small hit of approval feels like connection, but it's actually separation. You're separating from your own judgment, your own values, your own voice. Watch yourself for one day. Notice how often you check for responses. Notice how often you adjust your words before speaking. Notice how often you say things not because you believe them, but because you know they'll land well. This is the vampire feeding. The strongest men I know rarely seek validation. They speak their truth and let it stand. They share their thoughts without checking the temperature of the room. They make decisions based on their internal compass, not external applause. This doesn't mean being rude or inconsiderate. It means being honest. It means trusting your own judgment more than the crowd's approval. It means saying what needs to be said, not what people want to hear. But here's where it gets tricky. The validation vampire adapts. When you stop seeking obvious approval, it gets subtle. It shows up as humble bragging, as strategic vulnerability, as asking questions you already know the answers to just to hear someone confirm your thinking. The cure isn't isolation, it's integration. You learn to speak from your center, not from your need. You share from abundance, not from emptiness. You engage from strength, not from hunger. This takes practice. Start small. Say something true without checking how it lands. Share an opinion without softening it from mass consumption. Make a decision without polling your network. Notice the discomfort. That discomfort is the vampire losing its grip. Here's a question that might reveal something important about where you stand with this. When was the last time you said something that mattered to you, knowing it might not be popular? Not to be contrarian, but because it was true for you. When was the last time you trusted your own judgment over the group's reaction? Think about that. Really think about it, because your answer reveals whether you're feeding the vampire or starving it. And in the comments, I'm curious, what's one area where you catch yourself seeking validation most? Work? Relationships? Online? No judgment here, just awareness. Sometimes naming the trap is the first step to escaping it. The path to authentic strength runs through the valley of uncomfortable honesty. Most men turn back. Will you?
The second trap is more seductive because it feels like strength. You see something wrong, you respond. You witness injustice, you speak up. You encounter stupidity, you correct it. Society tells you this is engagement, passion, leadership. Society is wrong. This is the reactive storm, and it's stealing your power one outrage at a time. The reactive man lives at the mercy of his environment. His mood depends on the news. His energy depends on what others do or say. His focus depends on whatever crisis is trending. He thinks he's engaged with the world, but really, the world is controlling him. Watch the reactive man at work. He can't let the stupid comment pass. He can't ignore the unfair decision. He can't resist correcting the person who's wrong on the internet. Every trigger pulls him off his path. Every distraction becomes his emergency. This isn't passion. This is being scattered. This isn't strength. This is being weak to every external stimulus. The truly powerful man chooses his battles. He knows that fighting every fight means winning none of them. But the reactive storm is clever. It disguises itself as virtue. Someone has to speak up, it whispers. If good men stay silent, evil wins. These aren't entirely wrong, but they're incomplete. They ignore the cost of constant reactivity. Every time you react, you lose initiative. Every time you respond to someone else's agenda, you abandon your own. Every time you let external events determine your internal state, you hand over your sovereignty. The calm man sees the same injustices, the same stupidity, the same problems, but he responds strategically, not reactively. He chooses when to engage and when to ignore. He knows that his energy is finite and his focus is precious. This doesn't mean being passive. It means being selective. It means understanding that your attention is your most valuable resource, and every minute spent reacting to someone else's drama is a minute not spent building your own vision. The reactive storm feeds on emotional intensity. The more worked up you get, the stronger it becomes. The more you argue with strangers online, the more it grows. The more you let external events dictate your internal weather, the more power it gains over you. Breaking free requires emotional discipline. Not emotional suppression, emotional discipline. You feel the anger, but you don't let it make your decisions. You see the injustice, but you don't let it scatter your focus. You witness the stupidity, but you don't let it steal your peace. Start with small things. Let the bad driver pass without honking. Let the ignorant comment stand without correction. Let the unfair situation exist without your immediate intervention. Notice the urge to react. Notice the story your mind tells about why you must respond. Then choose differently. This isn't about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about becoming strategic. It's about understanding that the man who reacts to everything impacts nothing. The man who chooses his moments shapes everything. Your power lies not in how quickly you respond, but in how wisely you choose where to invest your energy.
The third trap is the cruelest because it feels like generosity. You're always there, always reachable, always ready to help. People call you reliable, dependable, a good man. And slowly, invisibly, you disappear. This is the availability trap, and it's turning you into a convenience store, open 24/7, always serving, never closed, never valued. The available man thinks he's building relationships. He answers every text immediately. He says yes to every request. He makes himself endlessly accessible because he believes this creates connection. But availability without boundaries creates contempt, not connection. When you're always there, you're never special. When you always say yes, your yes means nothing. When you always respond instantly, people stop thinking before they ask. You become part of the background noise, not the signal. Watch how people treat what they can always access versus what they must earn. Notice how they approach the friend who's always free versus the one whose time is precious. The scarce resource gets respect. The abundant resource gets taken for granted. The availability trap works by convincing you that your worth comes from your usefulness, that love means never saying no, that strength means never being unavailable. But this creates the opposite of what you want. It creates a world where people value what you do, not who you are. The truly powerful man understands that presence requires absence, that being valued requires being sometimes unavailable, that saying yes to everything means saying no to your own priorities. This doesn't mean being difficult or playing games. It means having boundaries. It means understanding that your time, energy, and attention are finite resources that should be invested wisely, not scattered freely. But breaking the availability trap is harder than it seems because it requires disappointing people. The people who've grown used to your constant accessibility won't like it when you start having boundaries. They'll call you selfish, changed, distant. This resistance is proof you're doing something right. Start small. Don't answer every text immediately. Let some calls go to voicemail. Say no to requests that don't align with your priorities. Notice the guilt. Notice the fear that people will stop liking you. This fear is the trap's last defense. The paradox of availability is that the less available you become, the more people value your presence. When you stop being a convenience store, you start being a destination. When your time becomes precious, people treat it preciously. This doesn't mean being rude or irresponsible. It means being intentional. It means understanding that the man who belongs to everyone belongs to no one. The man who saves his energy for what matters most has energy for what matters most. Your presence is a gift, not a given. Your time is an investment, not an expense. Your attention is a currency, not a charity. When you treat these resources with respect, others learn to respect them too. The man who is sometimes unavailable becomes infinitely more valuable when he is available.
Now you know the 3 traps. The question is, what are you willing to pay to escape them? Because freedom from these patterns isn't free. It costs you the illusion of being liked by everyone. It costs you the drug of constant stimulation. It costs you the safety of always being needed. Most men aren't willing to pay this price. They'd rather stay comfortable in their cages than face the uncertainty of freedom. They'd rather keep seeking validation than risk being misunderstood. They'd rather stay reactive than develop the discipline of strategic response. They'd rather stay available than face the possibility of being forgotten. But here's what they don't understand. The cage gets smaller every year. The validation becomes harder to find. The reactions become more frequent and less satisfying. The availability becomes more expected and less appreciated. The trap tightens until you can barely move. Breaking free requires what I call strategic withdrawal. Not permanent isolation, but temporary distance. You step back from the validation machine. You pause before reacting. You create space between requests and responses. This withdrawal isn't cruel, it's cultivation. You're cultivating your own thoughts without external interference. You're developing your own opinions without group pressure. You're building your own strength without borrowed energy. During this withdrawal, you'll discover something interesting. The world doesn't collapse when you don't immediately respond. Conversations don't die when you don't fuel them with reactions. Relationships don't end when you're not constantly available. Most of what felt urgent was actually just noise. But you'll also discover something uncomfortable. Some people will drift away. Some relationships will reveal themselves as transactional. Some connections will prove to be more about what you provided than who you are. This isn't loss, this is clarity. The price of freedom is discovering that some of your relationships were actually dependencies. Some of your connections were actually addictions. Some of your strength was actually weakness in disguise. This discovery can be painful. You might feel lonely during this process. You might question whether you're making the right choice. You might wonder if being trapped but connected is better than being free but alone. This is normal. This is part of the process. But on the other side of this discomfort lies something precious. Authentic relationships built on mutual respect rather than mutual need. Genuine connections based on who you are rather than what you provide. Real strength that comes from internal resources rather than external validation. The freed man discovers that he has more impact with fewer words, more influence with less effort, more connection with less availability. Quality replaces quantity in every area of his life. The price of freedom is high, but the cost of remaining trapped is higher. Every day you stay in these patterns, you lose a little more of yourself. Every day you feed these traps, they grow stronger. Every day you postpone this choice, the choice becomes harder to make. The question isn't whether you can afford to break free. The question is whether you can afford not to.
Understanding the traps is just the beginning. Escaping them requires daily practice. Not dramatic gestures, but small, consistent choices that rebuild your relationship with validation, reactivity, and availability. Start with the validation trap. Choose one platform, one conversation, one interaction where you speak your truth without checking the temperature. Say what you mean without apologizing for it. Share your genuine opinion without softening it for mass consumption. Notice the urge to explain, to qualify, to make it more palatable. Resist that urge. This isn't about being harsh or insensitive. It's about being honest. It's about trusting that your authentic voice has value, even if, especially if, it's different from what others expect. For the reactive trap, practice the pause. When something triggers you, a news story, a comment, an injustice, count to 10 before responding. Better yet, count to 10 hours. Ask yourself, is this my battle to fight? Does responding serve my purpose or just my emotion? Will my reaction change anything or just feed the storm? Most of the time, you'll discover that your immediate reaction wasn't necessary. The world continued without your input. The conversation moved on without your correction. The injustice existed whether you responded or not, but your energy remained yours.
For the availability trap, practice strategic delay. Not rudeness, but intentionality. Let messages sit for a few hours before responding. Let requests percolate before saying yes. Create space between stimulus and response. In that space, you rediscover your power to choose. But here's the crucial part. These practices will feel wrong at first. Your nervous system is wired for immediate response. Your ego is addicted to constant engagement. Your identity might be built on being always available. The discomfort you feel isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's proof you're doing something right. The practice of power is really the practice of patience. Patience with your own growth, patience with others' reactions to your changes, patience with the process of rebuilding yourself from the inside out. Some days you'll fall back into old patterns. You'll seek validation. You'll react emotionally. You'll say yes when you should say no. This isn't failure. This is learning. Each time you notice the pattern, you grow stronger. Each time you choose differently, you expand your freedom. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness followed by choice. The goal is building the muscle of intentional response rather than automatic reaction. The goal is becoming someone who acts from strength rather than reacts from weakness. This practice transforms more than just your behavior. It transforms your presence. People sense when they're dealing with someone who can't be easily triggered, someone who doesn't need their approval, someone whose time and attention have real value. The practice of power is quiet work. It happens in moments no one sees. It builds strength no one can measure. But its effects ripple out into every area of your life, creating the kind of authentic influence that can't be faked or borrowed. Power isn't something you take, it's something you develop, and it develops one choice at a time.
There's a revolution happening, but you won't see it on the news. It's not loud or dramatic. It's not trending on social media. It's happening in the quiet moments when men choose differently. When they stop seeking validation and start trusting themselves. When they stop reacting to everything and start responding to what matters. When they stop being available to everyone and start being present for what's important. This is the quiet revolution of inner strength. And you have the power to join it or remain trapped in patterns that serve everyone except you. The man who escapes these three traps doesn't become cold or disconnected. He becomes selective. He doesn't lose relationships, he transforms them. People who related to him through need learn to relate to him through respect. People who took his availability for granted learn to value his presence. This transformation ripples outward. Your children see a father who speaks his truth rather than seeking approval. Your partner experiences someone who chooses to be present rather than being compulsively available. Your colleagues encounter someone who responds thoughtfully rather than reacts emotionally. But the deepest change happens within you. You rediscover the man you were before the world convinced you to be someone else. You reconnect with your own judgment, your own values, your own voice. You remember what it feels like to act from strength rather than react from weakness. The path isn't easy, but it's simple. Every day you have multiple opportunities to practice. Every conversation is a chance to speak authentically. Every trigger is an opportunity to pause. Every request is a moment to choose. These small moments add up to a transformed life. Some will resist your changes. They'll miss the old you, the one who always agreed, always reacted, always said yes. This resistance is proof you're on the right path. Growth always creates temporary discomfort for those who benefit from your stagnation. Others will be inspired by your transformation. They'll see something in you they want for themselves. They'll ask what's different. They'll want to understand how you developed such presence, such clarity, such strength. You'll become living proof that another way is possible. The quiet revolution isn't about changing the world through force. It's about changing yourself through choice. It's about understanding that the most powerful changes happen from the inside out. It's about recognizing that your personal transformation is your greatest contribution to the world. You now know the 3 traps. You understand the price of freedom. You have the tools for practice. The only question remaining is, what will you choose? Will you continue feeding the validation vampire, the reactive storm, and the availability trap? Will you remain comfortable in patterns that feel safe but make you weak? Will you keep giving your power away one small choice at a time? Or will you join the quiet revolution? Will you reclaim your authentic voice, your strategic mind, your valuable presence? Will you become the man who acts rather than reacts, who chooses rather than defaults, who leads rather than follows? The choice is yours. The moment is now. The revolution begins with the next decision you make. Choose wisely. Choose strongly. Choose quietly. The world needs men who understand the power of strategic strength, authentic presence, and intentional living. The world needs men who have escaped the traps and found their true power. The world needs you, the real you. Not the version seeking validation, not the version reacting to everything, not the version available to everyone. The version that chooses, the version that leads, the version that's free. That man is waiting. It's time to let him emerge.